Happy Monday. Got a big show for you planned today. We are looking at the state of the Bears defensive line under new defensive coordinator Dennis Allen. Talk a little bit about drafting tight ends in the draft and how it usually goes. We're getting started right now. CHGO Bears Podcast. Welcome into the CHGO Bears Podcast. Happy Monday. Off season rolling on, getting closer and closer to the draft. The NFL draft is 1 month from today. And that's actually a good reminder. If you don't know where you're going to be on April 24th, you better be with us.
Yeah.
At our draft party. allchgo.com/events. Get your tickets now. April 24th, 25th, 115 Bourbon Street. It's going to be a great time. Those tickets are available now. Welcome into the show. Adam Hoge, Mark Carman, Greg Braggs Jr. with you. Hope everybody had a great weekend.
I had a great weekend.
Cool.
You know, I really enjoyed watching Wisconsin lose. Hogue, no offense. And I really enjoyed watching Illinois lose. No offense, ILL. And I really hated seeing Purdue win. Congratulations, Greg.
Thank you. Congratulations accepted.
You were right there.
Thanks. Yeah, I watched the game. I'm well aware.
I thought Tandre was fouled, but he wasn't.
He was not fouled.
Should have taken the 3. If you're going to drive, you got to get a layup.
Was right there.
Take the 3.
By the way, I'd like to personally apologize to you and even to you and to you, Steven, and really to Papa Hogue and more importantly to you, the listeners of this podcast, because I was watching back on some of my performances and I can be better. And mainly what I'm talking about is mic discipline. And this, I've been told this, I don't know, 100 times, but today is a new day.
Oh.
I am really bothered by myself. So I'm vowing to do better.
And I
love it. So all the times we brought it up to you, you just didn't believe us?
Not really. I didn't realize it was that bad.
Until you watched the tape?
Yeah. Until I had a really, I don't know if I had just had the really bad day of the tape that I'm watching. It's one of my new duties around here. And I'm watching myself and I was horrified. You and me are best friends forever now.
Well, sometimes it swings away from you. Sometimes these mics have the mind of their own. I've also tried to turn over a new leaf. There's a small percentage of people that watch this show that hate when my hat is backwards. So here I am today wearing the hat forwards just for you 12 people that can't stand when my hat's backwards. This one's for you. You get one.
Yeah.
And then I'm going back to my ways.
Well, I think it's good, Greg, for you to lean into being the professional you that you can be. And hat forward is more professional than hat backwards. So congratulations. You're growing up. By the way, Hogue, and I want to get into Montez Sweat because I got about 8,000 thoughts on this. But I watched, is the show called Adolescence? Whose phone is ringing? Is that me?
You going to work on that too? Or?
Yeah, that's
tomorrow.
That's tomorrow's show.
Tomorrow's show we work on.
Great Illinois fan, I think, calling to scream at me for what I just said about the Illini.
Wait, someone's watching the show live.
You want me to answer it?
Brian should know we're live on the air.
If someone,
you know we're live on the show. You're supposedly you listen to the show.
We're live, Brian.
We have to. You're on the show, and we're very disappointed in you. He didn't say a word.
if someone was watching the show and then called you to react live, like what are we?
It would be unlikely.
What are we? The score? What's happening?
No, but I
get in the chat, Brian.
Brian's a great Illinois fan. He went up there and gave it his all, and they lost.
Yeah,
they were horrible. By the way, they didn't even. That was.
I didn't see any of the game. I was watching. I was hanging out with Ben Johnson at the Hawks game.
They decided to wait to play defense next year. Apparently,
it was like y'all are acting like this is a preseason game, except for the point guard who was outstanding. All right, Hogue.
Yeah,
back on track. Sorry.
Well, the head coach of the Bears was at the Blackhawks game yesterday. That was cool.
I heard he left early. Is that accurate?
I believe so, but I don't want to throw him completely under the bus.
No, do it. Bus toss Ben.
He was not. They were not in the suite in the third period.
Hoge detective, you come to the Bears game. You're a Bears coach.
Blackhawks.
You better stay to the end because this guy's watching.
Yeah, I mean, because that's interesting. Because if he left before the third period, that means when we went to the Blackhawks game last week, that Mark Carman, who is famously known for leaving games early, made it longer than Ben Johnson at a Blackhawks game, which to me is probably the first red flag we've come across in the Ben Johnson era.
First of all, I'm offended by that comment. I don't leave games early, but that day I had Poppy the Puppy duties, and I had to adhere to Poppy the Puppy. That's why I had to go. I think. There was some reason that I had to go.
I think it was sleepy time was the real answer.
Second of all, it was, they were losing 6-2, and Hoge was sitting with Steven, and I was stuck with you, and I just, come on. I mean, how long? 2 periods plus with you. I mean, I thought that was pretty good.
It was very good.
Thank you. It was a great time. Thank you for taking us to the Blackhawks game, Adam.
You're welcome. I took you to the worst game of the season, and then yesterday I went to the best game of the season with my family. So.
Hoge took us to the Hawks game, and with Hoge tickets, you get food too. It was really nice.
Yeah, I try to take care of you guys.
First class job by you.
Anyway, let's get to some Bears talk. As the head coach was there yesterday, and he's got a new defense. Well, kind of a new defense. Well, what do we make of this new defense? It is a new defense. It's a new defensive coordinator. It's not completely new defense. And most of the pieces are the same. Add a Grady Jarrett here. Add a Dio Dangbo here.
Like it.
I'm going to go out on a limb
Yeah.
and tell you that Montez Sweat is going to have more than 5.5 sacks this year.
Well, that's where we wanted to start this conversation.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a state of the defensive line. And obviously Montez Sweat in his first full season with the Bears last year, second season after getting traded, did not have a great year by any means. And I mean, I think we start with this conversation with what the Bears signed him to be. And here's his stats, by the way, from the last 2 seasons. So 2023, of course, included, half that season with Washington. Maybe I'm trying to think of when he was actually traded.
He was traded exactly. Well,
yeah, little less. Oh, it's about half and half. Regardless,
that's right.
The point is 2013, 17 games, 14 tackles for loss, 12.5 sacks, 25 quarterback hits. The Bears paid him a contract more in line with those numbers, right? And then in 2024, 16 games, tackles for loss goes down to 9, sacks only 5.5. I think, if we're going to ask.
He had 8 games with Washington in 2023 and 9 with the Bears.
And he led the Commanders in sacks with 6.
And then he had 6 with the Bears.
And he had 5
in 9 games.
Didn't he lead both teams in sacks that year?
I'm sorry.
I think that's the stat. Yeah, he led both teams in sacks.
I'm sorry. He had 6.5 with Washington in 23, 6 with us.
Right. He had more sacks in 9 games in 2023 than he did in 16 games in 2024.
And that 6.5 led Washington, and that 6 led the Bears.
So I'm going to ask you 2 relatively easy questions. One is, have the Bears gotten enough out of Montez Sweat so far?
No.
That is an easy question, and the answer, of course, is no.
Do you expect them to get more out of Montez Sweat in 2025 now that they've added Grady Jarrett and Dio Dangbo to this?
Yes.
I do. Very much so.
I think the other question is, did we ever get clarification on whether or not he was playing injured this year?
He was.
I know all players relatively play injured throughout an NFL season, but I guess that's one question we probably missed at the combine or at any point where we've talked to Polzer.
Yeah, since we were talking hockey 2 seconds ago, like if he was a hockey player, I would have expected like the day after the season ended them to be like, he was actually playing with a missing leg last year.
Right.
We never really heard that, and football's different like that. They don't always disclose things because, contracts and future things and all that stuff. But going back to training camp, he was dealing with like a neck or something, if I remember right. Like there was, it just seemed like he was never fully healthy last year, and I think that was definitely part of the equation.
He was running the hill behind the practice fields at training camp last year, and they never really clarified what was going on, but it was obvious that he wasn't right. And it was also obvious that he wasn't right on the field when he's not showing up at all on the stat sheet in game 2 against the Texans, not showing up at all on the stat sheet against Carolina when the Bears got to 3-2 and things were looking oh so good. He just wasn't himself. His numbers popped up. I give him credit for the way he battled through the whole year and stayed on the field and tried to contribute. But whatever the injury was, he was not himself. I mean, I just think it's also like, let's just remember who this guy is. He is a physical freak of 84 and a 3/4 wingspan and an arm length of 35 3/4, and he's got huge hands, and you just look at the guy and it's like, that dude looks like no one else in the Bears locker room. So if you're gonna make, I think it's a very safe bet to be like, all right, Grady Jarrett's here, Dio's here, Dennis Allen's here, got a new defensive line coach too, who is well regarded. In Jeremy Garrett, his production has to go up. It just has to.
Yeah, I think, but the reason why we're having this conversation is because I think for a couple guys on this defensive line, but especially for Montez Sweat, it's a big year. I feel like it's a big year in his career, like where he's at in his career. This should be the prime. It seemed like he was headed there 2 years ago, and if he was hurt last year, then with the right pieces around him, which seem to be there now, a defensive coordinator in Dennis Allen that should be able to get a lot out of him, this should be a big year. And here's another reason why it's important. It's called money. Our producer, Steven.
Who's rich?
I don't think so.
Really? He did buy me this hat.
He's the richest producer in the history of the show. I don't know. Actually, Lawrence seems like he had a roll in the dough, too. I take it back. Never mind. This is an awkward conversation. My fault.
I'm going to attempt to get us back on track. Montez Sweat, money. There's an out in his contract. So $10 million of the $20.9 million he is owed in 2026 does not guarantee until the third league day of 2026. So, essentially a year from now. And so there is a spot where if Montez Sweat has another 5.5 sack season and he's about to carry another cap hit of $25+ million, which is what his cap hit's been, was last year and will be this year, they can save $16 million plus on that cap hit by cutting him.
Well, and you have to think, too, that they're likely to add a defensive lineman in this draft. Could potentially even be at 10. And so then that adds to that equation as well. So to your point, I definitely think, obviously, it's a big year for Montez Sweat. And I will say, Ben Johnson talked about it at the end of the year. Losing Andrew Billings halfway through the year, that defensive line took a big hit.
Yeah.
And this pass rush in general has had trouble getting to the quarterback. Now you try to load up with Grady Jarrett and Dio Odangbo. You potentially bring in someone in the first or second round. It's a big year, and Montez Sweat is talented enough, and I think he will follow through with what they originally brought him in for. But when you trade a second-round pick, you give a guy a 4-year deal, the expectation is that you're going to be one of the top players on this team. And last year, everybody kind of fell short of whatever goals they had.
If he isn't great, if he doesn't have double-digit sacks, the Bears are in big trouble. Period, end of story.
Right, he's got to be a game wrecker.
Yeah, I mean
they're paying him to be one.
You need a game wrecker. Dio Dangbo, I think, has an opportunity to have make a name for himself in this league. Try to find a defense that fits him or whatever you want to say. But I don't know. He's not a game wrecker, right? Andrew Billings and Grady Jarrett are vets that can certainly make plays. Andrew Billings is great at plugging the run and getting in the backfield. But I don't know if game wrecker is the right word for him, but Montez Sweat, that's his role on this team.
But I think that's part of why we're having this conversation, though, because I don't know, if we had somebody on from Washington to talk about him, that they would have described him as a game wrecker.
He was when he played the Bears on Washington.
Right, but I saw somebody in the chat a minute or so ago, like being like, hey, that 12.5 sacks, that's kind of the exception to the rule of what's been in his career. And so I think it does bring up a fair point of, look, the Bears gave up a second-round pick for him. They paid him to be a game wrecker. I'm not disputing that.
Right.
But I think the question here is he actually...
Right. They were projecting that.
Is he actually one of those players? And in 2024, we did not see that player. So that, again, brings us back to 2025, and it's an important year for him because if he doesn't produce like one, we're starting to get to the point. The Bears aren't up against the cap yet. They're not going to be, in terrible shape. But when you start to look at where you're allocating your cash and your cap, if you're not getting production out of there, and you have Dio Odengbo, and he happens to have a good year, and oh, by the way, the next guy we're going to talk about, a developmental player in Austin Booker, maybe he has a bigger year and is showing you, then all of a sudden the stuff adds up to some of these tough decisions that better teams have to make where they are surprise cuts or there's trades and things like that. It happens.
Well, and I just think ultimately, I know it was an easy answer when you say, are the Bears getting enough out of Montez Sweat? The answer is no. But I also think the point of it is, for some of the contracts the Bears have had are 2-year deals that you can get out of. And you've brought up the way that the Bears can get out of this one as well. But when you trade a second-round pick, when they did for Montez, when you give a 4-year deal, you're pushing your chips in to try to win, and they haven't done that yet. And now, on top of the fact that you're trying to win with a vet like this that you're paying, you're in the Caleb Williams rookie window. And so you got to take advantage of this. And I understand this is Ben Johnson's first year. This is Dennis Allen's first year implementing a new system, and there needs to be some patience required there. But at the same time, you have to, at some point, start taking advantage of this window you're in before it passes you by.
All right, we got more coming up on the state of the Bears defensive line. We are going to talk about Austin Booker. But first, we take our first break of the show and tell you about Bet365, a new partner here at CHGO. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. New customers right now can get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. That's right. Win or lose. Bet $5, you're getting $150 in bonus bets. When you sign up now, you use code CHGO365, deposit $10, place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins or loses. And obviously, a lot of good things to be interested in right now when it comes to the basketball world. With the Bet365 early payout offer, you're a winner if your team goes up by 20 points with an instant payout on straight bets and parlay selections marked as winners. Download the app. Use code CHGO365 when you sign up. Again, if the team that you bet on goes up by 20 at any point in the game, you are paid out regardless of what happens the rest of the game. And again, this is breaking news from Bet365. New customers now get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5, win or lose. Sign up. Use code CHGO365. Deposit $10. Place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins or loses. Bonus bets can be used on the spread, total, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 plus if you or someone you know has a gambling problem. Crisis counseling and referral services can be accessed by calling 1-800-GAMBLER.
Could have made that money right when the Bulls went up by 20 on the Lakers Saturday night. Take that, LeBron. Hey, are you having trouble managing your finances? We don't want that. We don't want that. That's not good.
You're just a little too excited to use that.
I think it's perfect. Start managing your finances, Hoge Mansion. Build the life that you want. Get that second mansion with Monarch Money, which makes it simple, easy, even for the busiest of lives. If you're doing 7 podcasts a day and you're rooting for your team in the NCAA tournament and you're still alive and you don't know how to manage your money, Monarch Money's got you. They're going to take your accounts, your credit cards, your investments. They're going to put it all in one place. You're always going to know where your money stands. No hassle. You can track your spending, track your saving, track your investments effortlessly. Monarch Money is the finance tool people actually love. Make it so simple for you. The Wall Street Journal, best budgeting app of 2025. There you go. Get control of your overall finances with Monarch Money. Use the code CHGO at monarchmoney.com. Put that in your browser, and you get half off your first year. 50% off your first year, monarchmoney.com. Use the code CHGO.
What the hell is that thing?
This is our new sound tool.
You know that Steven could just...
he has buttons over there. He can
This is a trombone. This is
Right.
the Carman
This is
trombone.
not a trombone.
But like
Oh.
we
It
have
isn't?
we have a producer that can do sound effects.
Patrick Norton is
Look,
the owner of this, and
the
he said it's a
piece of-
trombone.
Did he give you another piece of musical
No,
equipment?
I found it over there when I was prepping, and I stole it.
I mean, that guy's really pushing his limits.
That's
First, it
true.
was the harmonica.
We got the. Don't worry, I
Yes, I
got the-
acknowledge.
I got it right here.
Okay, this piece of plastic is a trombone. Okay,
Yeah.
an actual trombone is what that guy at the Blackhawks game on Tuesday was playing next to
Mhm.
Greg. That's a real trombone. This is called a sound machine. And
It's a
I don't
trombone
like it.
sound machine, and we got the harmonica. Everything's here. We're
I
ready
don't
for
like
the show. You cannot like it all you want. That adds to the credibility of the trombone.
Well, I'm just gonna keep going with it.
You make terrible points, trombone comes out. I have it for you
Oh, okay.
and for Greg
Actually,
Greg.
now I like it.
and anybody else on this program.
You.
You can grab it over me and trombone away, buddy.
Whoa.
I will not be grabbing anything over you as we now move into our next part of the linebacker discussion.
So it's an interesting defensive line, right? Yeah. D-line. Okay.
Oh yeah, D-line, not linebacker.
So last year the Bears were
Guess
out
I
of,
need to
out
chill.
of draft picks. And they had a guy that was still available with
I'm sorry. I can't even hold it. Out of draft picks because they took a punter in the 4th round. But keep
Yeah,
going.
I know you're going to say that. So, regardless, they were out of picks.
Yeah.
And they had a guy that was still available sitting there that they had at least a 4th round grade on. And they're in the 5th round. And they make a very sensible move to say, you know what? We think this guy's a 4th rounder. He's available here. Let's use next year's 4th rounder to get him now. And we get him for we get him now. We don't have to wait a year to use this 4th round pick.
Right.
The logic of that makes sense. If the player works out.
Yeah, I was going to say, if he's any good.
If the player works out. Because now is the time where you are going towards another draft and you don't have a 4th round pick. I was actually a little teaser for you guys. I'm working on Bears Mock Draft 2.0. I was working on it this morning. No 4th round pick. That's right. No 4th round pick because they used it to draft Austin Booker last year. Austin Booker looked like a excellent draft pick in the preseason. And I still like him as a developmental prospect and can't wait to see, what he looks like this year, including, how much weight he's put on, how much muscle he's put on. But predictably, as we talked about during the preseason last year, got to the regular season and it was a different story, right? You're going up against starters the whole way, best left tackles, right tackles in the league, and when you're standing 6'6", 245 pounds, that could be a problem in the NFL. And so at this point, the question is, we don't know. Is this going to work out for Austin Booker? But I find him to be, I would put him on my list of most intriguing players to watch this summer. Just in terms of, okay, when he comes in, how much more does he weigh? Does he fit this defense? Dennis Allen, we've talked about this a lot. He likes his long, bigger defensive ends. Well, he's 6'6". He's got the wingspan.
Right.
But go ahead and look up Cam Jordan. Go ahead and look up Trey Hendrickson. We're talking about guys that are 30 to 40 pounds heavier than what Austin Booker was last year. So he's got to come back probably bigger and then show that he still has the same explosiveness when he gets there. And if he does, and he's added more to his pass rush arsenal, I think the Bears could be in really good shape with Montez Sweat, Dio Dangbo, and Austin Booker all in there, creating some of those waves of pass rushers that Ryan Poles himself said the Bears got to find.
I think when you really take a close look and remember who Austin Booker is, you realize how much of a gamble the Bears took drafting him. This dude played basically 1 year of college football. He had 6 cup of coffee games with Minnesota. He transferred to KU. He had more eligibility, and that was it. 12 games at Kansas. So, which to me is just wild that he decided that I can come out after 1 year at that weight. But he did. Significantly underweight, but with a lot of talent, and Ryan Poles taking a swing on with a 4th round pick this year on somebody who he thinks, I would assume if he's making that level of gamble, can ultimately be great. If he can get to 3rd down specialist this year and make an impact, that would be a phenomenal growth spurt for Austin in his career. I think when you watched last year, you saw a dude who was not equipped to set the edge at all because he's just not big enough. They run at him. He's got no chance. But you also saw a guy who's got enough bend and some creativity and some burst and a relentlessness about him that excites you. But, just to me, it's like, this guy, he needs to be in the gym 5 times a day. He's got to dial up Kobe Bryant to get to where he needs to get to if he's going to be successful in the NFL.
Well, I think that the Bears kind of showed their hand a little bit here already by, signing Dio Dangbo. And so I think that shows you a little bit to because we all understand they have number 10 pick. They've got 2 second-round picks. So they could have said, hey, we're good with Austin Booker. He's in his 2nd year, and we're going to draft some defensive linemen and add to that room through youth. But instead, they signed Dio Dangbo. Yes, you need waves of depth, so Austin Booker can be that guy. I'm with you, Carm. If he can be a 3rd down specialist, it's the same thing. I kind of put him and Karan Amagaji in the same box. They're welcome to live outside of that box, but I just think that you have to try to be realistic about what they can be. Hey, you don't put a cap on any player. If they play outside of what it looks like their potential is, Karan Amagaji, potentially a swing tackle, Austin Booker, a rotational defensive edge that is somebody that comes in on 3rd downs. If they play outside of that, great. But I think if you're an organization, you got to look at those guys realistically and say, we need to make sure we upgrade in front of them and then let them figure out how their development goes.
Which, credit to, obviously the Bears have done that in theory with everything they've done this year. Also, look, I think everybody got excited seeing the fact that he and Montez and Dio and Gray Jarrett, they're all working out with Brandon Jordan, this pass rushing specialist.
Yeah.
Who, I don't know if I didn't know Brandon Jordan's name, honestly, until this popped up. And then looking at his history, played at Illinois, cup of coffee in the CFL, played for the Chicago Slaughter, home of Jared Payton and Mongo McMichael.
Do we have a video of that or can't play?
Yeah. So, but hey, getting after it, it's March the 24th, March the 23rd, whatever. You got to love to see that. You got to love to see them getting together. The guy, you can't question his work ethic at all.
I think it's also worth bringing up that when he was drafted, a lot of draft evaluators said had he waited 1 more year and played an extra year of college, that he could have been a top 2-round pick instead of being
right
in the 5th round like he was. He only played 283 defensive snaps last year, only a sack and a half, and now you have to kind of wonder how much playing time does he get to kind of prove that he did develop in that rookie year going into year 2 now.
Well, and that's the thing, this is where what the Bears do with their first 3 picks especially, I think, is so critical, because if you draft a pass rusher, certainly at 10, you're expecting that guy to be on the field. Take one in the 2nd round, you're expecting that guy to be in the rotation. And that's going to eat into snaps for
you're paying
Booker.
Dio Dangbo $18 million this year. He's playing.
I mean, you got a cat. Yeah, you have what?
And you look at Dio Dangbo, you look at
Odango's actually getting $8 million this year. He's going to get $20 million next season.
That's right.
So between Sweat and Odango, you're looking at $45 million committed to 2026 to the Edge.
You look at Austin Booker, you look at Dayo Odangbo. Those are not the same person. Dayo Odangbo is a physically imposing dude. So is Montez.
Yeah, when he walked in that room for that press conference, like, oh, okay. Yeah.
You're huge.
So, but so I think the draft pick will show us a lot about this. And again, the lingering question is just like, what does Dennis Allen think about Booker?
Mm-hmm.
Don't know. We don't know at this point. So it's an interesting. But I think we'd all agree, state of the defensive line right now, better. You feel better about it. And I like that there is a young option in Booker that we're excited to see this summer to see what he can still become.
And just for the physically imposing thing, too. When I saw Aaron Donald for the first time, I'm like, who's that? Oh, it's Aaron Donald. I'm like, there's no way that dude who doesn't look like anything is one of the greatest interior defensive linemen in the history of the NFL. Right. So you don't necessarily have to be this Dayo Odangbo, Montez Sweat looking dude to do it.
To your point, and I don't think it got brought up here, but goes without saying, his motor is his thing that he does best. He does not stop on any given play. He finishes every play strong. So maybe he doesn't set the edge great. Maybe he hasn't gotten to the quarterback yet, but his motor is nonstop, and I think that's always going to keep him on the field, and he'll certainly have to find an impact on special teams as well.
With those long legs.
Got big legs. I'd also like to say hello to Dwayne and Katie Booker's parents. They did a great job getting Austin to this point, and also his two siblings, Ariana and Aubrey. Carmapedia.
Hashtag Carmapedia. All right. Which is sponsored by. Let's go into our second break. Carm is going to tell you.
I absolutely am, Adam. And you would just be impressed with Carmapedia, the way it just pops in at any moment. I could just throw a little bit extra onto you. And yes, you know what I like to do when I'm doing Carmapedia? That's right. It's my friends at Cornbread Hemp. Today, let's go with the CBD side of it because they got the THC. They also have the CBD gummies, which just help you chill out a little bit. And it's true, I'm not as young as I once was, but, so you got to take care of yourself, the physical and the mental wellness. We all need that. Cornbread Hemp CBD gummies, they help you feel better, stress, discomfort, just need a little relaxation. It's all the good stuff. Best part of the hemp plant, the flower, purest, most potent CBD. Again, you're taking up, you're going to sleep better. This thing was powerful as far as I don't really need a lot of help taking a nap, but this thing was straight legit. Organic, vegan, gluten-free, full spectrum CBD, maximum potency. And right now they're offering you, the CHGO listener, 30% off your first order. Do it. Just visit cornbreadhemp.com/CHGO. Use the promo code CHGO at checkout. Once again, cornbreadhemp.com/CHGO. Use that code CHGO. 30% off your first order. And yes, this is the good life.
And the March Radness sales event is going on now at Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake. That means the latest vehicles you've been looking for are now priced with game-winning savings, like 0% financing for 60 months, $0 down, 0 payments for 90 days, plus 0 hidden fees on select new Chevy models. That's a lot of zeros. Or you can also check out their selection over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. Actually drove by the lot on Saturday. They're loaded up. They're ready to go there. And with one of Chicagoland's largest Chevy inventories, you're sure to find the perfect vehicle for you. And as one of the top-selling Chevy dealers in the Midwest, they're able to keep their prices competitive, so you know you'll get a great deal. Of course, they also give you the raised price promise, which means there are no gimmicks. The price we talk about here on the show, the price you see online, that is the price you are paying. There's no stressful negotiating or any tricks. Go see for yourself. Visit our partner this March at their convenient location right on Route 12 in Fox Lake. You can't miss it. Don't miss out on their March Radness sales event going on all month long for 0% financing on select new Chevy models. Shop Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or at raychevrolet.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. Together, let's drive. Alrighty. A lot of talk about drafting a certain running back, drafting a certain tight end, and our awesome producer, Steven, did a little bit of digging on the history of drafting a tight end. If the Bears were to go down the road of drafting Tyler Warren in the first round, what are the chances that it would actually work out? Steven, I'm going to toss this over to you because you got a lot of numbers. You got a lot of results here on your research and what this may mean for whatever team ends up drafting Tyler Warren.
Yeah, so in the last 24 drafts, so since 2000, 24 tight ends have been drafted in the first round, and I have the list here. And I kind of took a look at these guys to try to figure out, how many of these guys were an actual hit in the first round for, where they were picked, the value they got back in return, whether or not they had a second contract with that team. And what I've come up with here is the results of this. In green is the guys that I consider to be a hit. I'm a little early on Brock Bowers, but I think after 1 year, we'll all agree he's a hit.
Yeah, I think that one worked.
Yeah.
How cool is that color coordination? Wow. Yeah, keep going. So it's amazing.
8 of these guys were considered hits. Those are the guys in green here. And then I have 3 listed in blue. Those are the guys that, the jury's still kind of out on. I haven't really made up my mind, and they could be hits. They could be misses, but we'll see. So what we come up with here is 11 out of the 24 tight ends drafted in the first round have been a hit or something close to it. So just under a 50% hit rate. And this whole conversation comes up because there's projected to be 2 tight ends here in the first round this draft, in Tyler Warren and then Colston Loveland as well. So should the Bears consider drafting a tight end when you have a less than 50% hit rate? Now, I'll kind of toss it to you guys, and based on that, what do you think?
Yeah, and I think there's kind of some quibbling you can do. There, Mercedes Lewis has been playing a pretty damn long time, but I think what Steven's getting at there is, guys that were slam dunks as first round picks. Because if you're going to draft a guy number 10 overall, you better be getting an all pro tight end out of it. You better be getting the guys that are more like a Travis Kelce,
George Kittle.
Yeah, the guys that are really creating mismatch problems in the passing game all the time, helping your quarterback move the ball downfield, not just blocking. So some of those guys on that list, I would even quibble with a little bit. They've had some success here and there. Mercedes Lewis, for example, has done. He used to be more receiving side end. He's really changed his game and kind of elongated his career by almost becoming an extension of the offensive line now as a tackle. But try to keep this in perspective. If you're drafting Tyler Warren, you're taking a swing at getting Travis Kelce. That's what you're trying to do. And when you see that hit rate, even with some of the guys Steven had highlighted, can we see that again? Just as guys are actually even considered.
Middle of the road players, Steven's not giving a whole lot of credit to, but that's fine. This is a tough list.
Well, who would you want to include in that?
Well, no, I don't even want to. That's my point. I don't even want to get in the weeds of who. I want to keep this on who's worth the top 10 pick. So let's say TJ Hawkinson. Would you be happy if you had drafted him number 10 overall? Because they traded him to Minnesota.
Right. But if he hadn't, they did, but they also traded him because they upgraded the position, and he also got hurt. You tell me if I had TJ Hawkinson right now on my team and we drafted first round, I'd be fine with it.
Okay.
Sam Laporta.
I'd be really fine with it.
Second round pick for him.
Yeah.
Well, because remember when the Bears drafted Cole Kmet, I believe he was the first tight end off the board that year, right?
What?
Yeah,
is that right?
I believe the second round. Yeah,
it was in the second round, but he was, I believe, maybe the chat can help me out here, but I believe he was the first tight end taken in that draft. And so I think that's kind of the overall point is you got to find your, I think, tight end a little further down the road.
Well, and that's the thing, Kelce. So if we're trying to find Kelce, well, he was a third round pick.
George Kittle,
5th round pick. I believe the Bears also could have drafted him. Who was it that they drafted instead? I remember.
They draft all these dudes that are from Chicago and grew up a Bears fan, but they don't draft George Kittle, who literally says "da Bears" as he comes off the podium as he's playing for the 49ers.
I think he's doing that just to troll you, though, specifically.
That's fine. I love George. He's welcome on our team anytime.
Well, here, let me flip it just a slightly different way. Last year in the draft, everyone was saying that Brock Bowers is going to be a great player. And Brock Bowers came in last year and caught 112 balls for 1,200 yards on a Raiders team that stunk with mediocre quarterback play.
Yeah.
If you're telling me that you think that Tyler Warren is of that ilk, 90% of it, 85%, and the Bears pick him at number 10, that to me is not a good pick, but a great pick.
I think that's a good point. I think that's a good rebuttal.
But I don't think he is Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers is more of like a wide receiver that's a tight end, and Tyler Warren to me is more of a tight end that's a tight end.
I don't know, man. He makes a lot of plays all over the field.
I know what you mean, though.
Right. To put it as simply as I can, like he's not Brock Bowers. He's very good. He is a mismatch. He's huge and fast.
Well, I would actually argue that Warren is more versatile.
Yeah. Well,
you don't want to say yeah to that. That'd be bad for your argument.
Well, I mean, you've seen him line up in the backfield. I wouldn't say yes, because you can line Brock Bowers up as a wide receiver. I don't think you're doing that with Tyler Warren.
Oh yeah, listen. I need to do more work on my Tyler Warren, but as we
you
famously
were the first person to bring him up like a month and a half ago.
Yeah,
what have
well,
you been doing?
Right. I watched 8 minutes of him on YouTube, and I was like, this guy's freaking awesome. And so now you're telling me that you don't think. I mean, now I got to do route trees versus Brock Bowers to feel like if I can really accurately argue with you that he's not Brock Bowers. I don't know. The dude looks pretty damn good. I think he's going to be really good in the NFL.
And,
I also think the Bears have a lot of freaking needs still.
Would you be surprised if I told you that Tyler Warren's actually taller than Brock Bowers?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Tyler Warren is huge.
Yeah.
Well, he was a high school quarterback, Tyler Warren.
They use Warren. They used him to get him on the field earlier in his career. They would put him in the Wildcat, and he would play quarterback and take the ball to the end zone. So he's got some creativity with ball in hands. Look, I mean, Biggs time. Shout out Brad Biggs. He had him mocked to number 7 overall with the Jets. He might not even be there when the Bears are there if you listen to Biggs time.
Well, and that's the other thing too. When you look at that list of tight ends taken in the first round since 2000, the game has changed a lot, and the tight end position has changed a lot, throughout the years. And so when you look at what Brock Bowers has done, when you look at what Travis Kelce's doing, and obviously just what the league is offensively. That's why you're starting to see, and that's why Atlanta took a chance on Kyle Pitts, hoping that he was going to be, like a wide receiver type tight end, and it hasn't worked out.
I think the thing about Warren though that I like is I actually think he's a safer pick than some of these other guys, like a Kyle Pitts coming out, like that are just like these freaky athletic, like what you're shooting for, like what you're talking about. Warren's just a football player, man. Like he could do everything. Like I feel very confident that whoever drafts Tyler Warren will be able to put him in the offense week 1, and he's going to help you. He's going to help you do something. Like I just think the floor is incredibly high there. I mean, if I remember right, because I have a really bad habit of immediately forgetting all the draft information I retain for a full year. It's like the summer comes and I just like want to forget it all. But Bowers had injury problems, right? At Georgia?
I think he did, prior to the draft, yeah. So,
my point is, like, I feel like even last year Bowers, as much as I loved him, and I did, like, I remember watching him a lot at Georgia. Like, I feel like there was a little bit more.
His last year he only played 10 games. He had 15 in both his.
It felt a little riskier, to be honest. Like, a little bit more boom or bust on Bowers. Obviously, he's booming. And he might be the best tight end. He's already in the argument for best tight end right now. Probably not quite there, but will be based on what we saw last year.
Well, one thing that when I was doing this research for this that came to mind was, the Bears really didn't QB sneak a single time last year. And Tyler Warren took a lot of snaps under center with Penn State. He's a bigger body.
He also do it out of the shotgun.
Yeah, they did a lot of different things with him that, honestly, the Bears were lacking. Outside of a nice pass to Roma Dunze on 4th down last year, the Bears were not a good 4th down offense. And he adds an entirely different element that could really help them out in those short yardage situations that they did not have last season.
You didn't like the Doug Kramer package?
I did not like the Doug Kramer package,
Okay.
no.
Okay.
He's back, by the way. I don't know if you're aware of that.
He is back. He is back. So I think our fourth down short yardage package is covered with Doug Kramer. And then you had Ryan Poles at the Michigan Pro Day. And I know everybody's talking about Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant. But they got a tight end there, too, that I think.
Olsen Loveland.
Right,
yeah.
that might be in consideration.
See, I would put him more in the Cole Kmet conversation, like type of tight end.
Well, speaking of Cole Kmet, Hoge, as the host of the 85, and we can't lose Cole Kmet like we just lost the trombone. But how do you think
It's for the best.
It's not. How do you think Cole and Tyler would work together? Because this has got to be a combo situation.
Well, I think they definitely can. But what I find interesting about that question is, so if you're going to go off solely what we've seen with Ben Johnson and the Lions, it would seem unnecessary to need to draft Tyler Warren. We talked about this a lot after the hire. Like, instead of what the Bears have done the last couple of years, which is try to have Cole Kmet more in a traditional Y, and then bring in another move tight end, which they failed to do the last 2 years. They tried Robert Tonyan 2 years ago. They tried Gerald Everett last year. Didn't really work out. Based on what we saw from the Lions offense, Cole actually seems like a really good fit in like the Sam Laporta, TJ Hawkinson role. And then you bring in another tight end to kind of, just fill in and be more of the primary blocker.
Which they've already done. In Durham Smythe.
So it all makes a lot of sense. Now, that's going off the Lions. If you're going to go off of everything Ben Johnson has preached since he became the Bears head coach, I'm going to work with the personnel I have. This is not going to be the same offense. I think my instinct tells me that Ben Johnson is not going to limit or pigeonhole him, his quarterback, or his players into any type of specific offense. So if you're telling me that there is this dynamic option available, I don't think that it's just like, oh, he's going to pass on that guy. Because I actually look at it the opposite. When I see Tyler Warren, I'm like, man, Ben Johnson's got to be thinking about the 50 different ways he could use this guy. And then if you do go ahead and draft that, all right, sorry, Durham Smythe, like your reps are probably going down. And then how do we make this work with Cole Kmet? You definitely can. They can 100% coexist in the whole same offense.
Right. They signed Durham Smythe to a 1-year deal. It's not like they're overly committed to him.
Right, but you also have to wonder, how does Ben look at what they have up front? And does he look at it, well, Joe Thuney is a stopgap at left guard. We invested heavily at.
All right, if he views Joe Thuney as a stopgap, then he should already be fired.
He's 32 years old.
He's an all-pro.
He's not.
He's the best offensive lineman the Bears have had in like a decade.
He's the best player on the team.
He's not going to play to 40.
Greg's right. He's probably the best player on the team.
I'm not saying he isn't. He's still not going to play forever.
You still got to extend him to a couple
Joe
more
Thuney
years.
a stopgap again, then you go to the penalty box. Penalty box.
Insane comment by you, backed up by him. He's not. You're not going to be signing him to a 5-year extension.
Nobody said that.
So he's a stopgap.
I'd sign him to a 3-year extension today,
including this next year. You're going to put.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so that's 3 years from now. It's still which you want to argue that 3 years in the NFL is an eternity. He's not a young player. He might very much want to draft somebody like Will Campbell, who could be the left tackle. If it doesn't work out there, he'll slide over to left guard. That very much could be on the table.
If you're gonna
with an older man in Joe Thuney.
Okay, well, if you're gonna extend Jonah Jackson, right, then you can extend Joe Thuney. I know that he's younger.
He's 4 years younger, dude.
I know, but
there's a big difference.
Right. Well, so is there. There's a big difference in what Joe Thuney is to this league.
I'm not saying you won't extend him for a year, so he's here for 2 years. It's still stopgap-y.
Okay, we're down to stopgap.
But my point remains, how does he look at the offensive line? The Lions spent a long time building that line so they could have guys like, okay, Jahmyr Gibbs, you can come in here, not be the biggest guy, be the fastest guy, but we know it's going to work because we're going to create space for you. Do they look like they have the luxury to pick a tight end or a running back? I don't know if they do. If they do, I think Tyler Warren would be lovely. But I don't know if they're looking like that. I think they still might be trying to build up front.
And I've said this before on our shows, and you can call it fence riding, whatever you want to call it. I'm not going to be pigeonholed into saying that I don't feel like the Bears should draft Tyler Warren. That is my stance. I think he's probably 6th, 7th on my priority list of guys that I think the Bears should draft at 10. That being said, if Ben Johnson chooses to draft Tyler Warren at 10, I'm not going to be sitting here booing the pick, when we're, at Marionette Park, on April 24th.
See, I think that's
know
how
that
we
Honey
should.
Bear ain't booing on the 24th. Honey Bear
Got it. Honey Bear's going to have the pom-poms
No,
out.
that's how you should be doing your draft projections, though. Like, instead of being like a regular draft analyst, be like, this guy's a first-round pick or second-round. Braggs' draft projection should be how he's going to react when the pick is made by the Bears. Like, if the Bears drafted this guy at this spot, my reaction would be this. I would crowd surf
Mason Graham
through the crowd.
Mason Graham.
I would toss the table because I'm so upset.
Right. Mason Graham, Will Campbell, Ashton Genty, I think, are in their own tier.
Of what? What are you going to do?
He's going to crowd surf on all three of them.
Well, I can't really move. Like, it's going to be like more of like a crutching thing.
We'll get
I'm not lifting Justin up on the stage last year.
Crowd surf in a wheelchair.
Yeah,
I did 21 push-ups yesterday. I'll have it up to 210 by draft day. We'll lift you, get you out there.
There you go. Then the next tier down after that, trade back's probably in my next tier, if I'm being honest.
What a boring thing to have happen.
Trade back. Let's go.
I'm gonna boo that.
Let's effing go. A trade back.
No, you would just start.
Will.
You just start yelling polls, and then you can crowd surf. I like it for you. It's good.
All right, I got exciting news for everybody.
Now, for the record, Mr. Honey Bear, I booed the Mitch pick vehemently when they drafted him.
Good for you. I'm so proud of you.
I take no pleasure in that.
He just turned Honey Bear around on you.
He tried to Honey Bear.
Don't let him do that.
He doesn't want to be called Honey Bear, even though we all know he's at least 78% Honey Bear.
There's 78. I lean Honey Bear, but I'm not full Honey Bear. I just want the best for my team. That's all I want.
Which one of your 19 teams?
All of them. Just one of them, really. Just one of them would be nice.
All right.
That's what happened to me yesterday, which is on the topic list today. I don't think it made the cut, but I really like when my teams are good. Go ahead, Hoge.
Yep. You did have that.
Yes, I did. It was a great topic.
Tony Moy brags his honey meatballs. So honey balls.
Honey balls. God.
That's
all right.
Interesting and makes me think of stories that I can't tell on the show. Go ahead.
Oh, boy. That unlocked Pandora's box there.
It really did.
Let's hear it.
We are bringing back a segment that we sort of stumbled upon a long time ago and then didn't really lean into as much as we should have. But we're going to try to make this more of a daily occurrence. Snidbits.
Yes.
The Snidbits are back. The CHGO Bears Snidbits. And there were a couple Snidbits.
Snidbits and shout-outs.
This is where we're just going to dump some of the news and notes on you that maybe have happened. The Bears made a hire this morning. They've hired their 798th vice president. The Bears hired Laura Anderson, the former chief financial officer and treasurer for the Big Ten Conference, as their senior vice president of administration and chief financial officer. Greg, what does that stand for?
CFO.
There you go.
What do they do?
Really important things.
The money. It is important. It's very important.
Well, in like the social network, when they're like arguing about who owns Facebook. He's like, I'm the CFO. That's how I know what it is. I'm kidding, of course.
Well, we also have a $10 super chat on this topic. What is from Isaac Siegel? What impact does the new CFO signing have on the team?
Well, everybody's connecting the dot that this means that they are prepared to announce the stadium announcement here soon. That's what this means, that they brought in a CFO because they're ready to break ground in Arlington Heights, and now they're going to put this new addition here to the front office This will be her responsibilities. Kevin's got these, just spreading out the responsibilities, and they're ready to announce Arlington Heights. That's the speculation, Adam.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I guess the stadium's coming regardless.
No, but she's going to be.
She's running it?
Yeah.
We have the owners meeting.
She's
And
the CFO. She oversees all the money for the whole organization. It's Kevin Warren bringing another one of his guys in.
Girls.
Woman. People. One of his people in that he knows.
Big Ten.
Carm brought up a good point in our pre-show meeting.
I read. Should I read it? Well, go ahead. I don't.
Well, your point was just I think the Big Ten's doing pretty good financially.
Yeah,
because it's not going to be too hard to sell this.
She made one of her. I'm sure she's great at her job, and trying to take anything away. But I'm saying that if the gig is make sure the Big Ten does well financially, I think I could probably not completely screw that up if they hired me.
Well, they did well in the tournament here in the first 2 rounds, 12-4 in their first 16 games of the tournament. Shout out to the Big Ten.
Yeah,
8-0 in the first round.
No shout out to the
4 teams in the Sweet 16. We won't name which 4. Out of respect to the 4 that didn't make it.
Speaking of a Big Ten school, Ben Johnson was also at Michigan's Pro Day. That's another snidbit for you.
Right. Ben Johnson, Ryan Poles.
He had a busy weekend. He was in Ann Arbor Friday. He was at the Hawks game Sunday.
Does that mean they're drafting Mason Graham?
Or Will Johnson?
No, Carm, that's not how that works.
Come on.
Loveland.
Kenneth Grant.
And then, according to Steven, I didn't actually look this up, but he said that Josh Connerly is going on a 30 visit to the Bears.
Yeah, he's got a top 30 visit with the Bears. He's a big 6'4", 315-pound offensive tackle out of Oregon. He's interesting. I've seen a lot of mocks with Josh Connerly going to the Bears in the second round.
I think most people remember Josh Connerly for his Senior Bowl moment where he gets absolutely blown up by Mike Green. And so that's like the lasting image for people that are just jumping on board the draft evaluation process. But I have to admit, when we were at the Combine and Josh Connerly was asked about that moment, I thought his answer was very respectable and mature, and talked about how, hey, everybody's going to get beat like that in this league, and it's not about getting beat. It's about how you bounce back, and talked about how he felt like he finished that week strong after that and the feedback he got from coaches for how he responded to that. So definitely on my radar because I appreciated the way he approached that question instead of taking offense to it.
I mean, that just shows you sort of the pressure involved in being a draft prospect. You literally have to have a perfect rep all the time, or you're going to have to deal with questions at the Combine about something.
And that was the famous quote by Will Campbell in his clip that went viral where he's like, if I drop back, 60 times a game and I give up 1 sack a game, then I'm not getting drafted, but so that's the standard that they have to live by.
If you could give up 1 sack per game, you're not getting drafted.
Right.
A lot of sacks over the course of a season to give up.
Right. In reality though, that's in how many reps they actually take.
Yeah.
That just shows you how small their margin of error is allowed.
Right.
That's why it's called the NFL, baby. They ain't playing around.
Yeah, and that is why Joe Thuney is not a stopgap.
The Hoge's love for Joe Thuney, if you want to get to the root of what's happening here, is so deep that it's almost like Thuney's his third kid.
I want all pros, and I want guys that can go to Canton on the
pros.
team.
We finally get an all pro, and you call him a stopgap.
Yeah, that was offensive to me. Not even to Joe, to me.
How many all pros have you covered? How many all pros have you covered since you've been here?
I mean, I guess if you, I'm just 10-ish. I don't know. There were a bunch on that 18 team.
Listen,
technically Eddie Jackson was an all pro. Technically Tariq Cohen. Technically Jakeem Grant.
Listen,
Jakeem Grant, all pro.
He was. He was all pro kick returner.
I'm not ruling out.
To your point, how many Hall of Famers? Julius Peppers, Devin Hester, Urlacher.
Oh, Devin.
Who's the best stopgap in Bears history? Came in here for 3 years and was great.
You're going to be a stopgap here if you keep bringing that up.
Robert Quinn.
Robert Quinn was
Not a stopgap?
We've had better at stopgaps. He's not at the top.
He had
Jason
the most
Peters.
sacks. He had the most sacks in a single season in Bears history.
Jason Peters was a stopgap. If you're going to bring that up.
So that's just
That's a guy who they signed like right before the season. We don't have a left tackle. Hold us over for
Who
17
are you to think you're the authority on what's a definition of a stopgap?
I am the person that thinks that, and I will allow myself to think that my definition of stopgap is my definition of stopgap. You can have low bar and call Jason Peters a stopgap. I call that somebody who was here for 6 weeks. I mean, how many games did he play? All right. Hey, by the way, top of the hour, become a diehard. Live the dream. Fran Duffy's got a phenomenal draft guide. We've got incredible T-shirts. We have a draft party coming up that Braggs is going to try and walk at. It's gonna be all of it's gonna be amazing. I'll tell you a great stopgap. Martellus Bennett. That was a good stopgap.
That's not. No, you
He's
are
not
still struggling with this definition.
Martellus
They signed him
Bennett
to
was
a
not a
real-ass
stopgap.
contract.
Martellus Bennett. Stopgap. No, how about
Stopgaps are 1-year contracts.
You know what was a great
at low money
Marion
to be a
Hossa?
starter.
Great stopgap.
Marion Hossa, you need to stop talking.
End of his career, came over here, 3 straight great years. Hossa. Stopgap. By the way,
Sweet Bippy saying what happened to the mic discipline. Carm.
Oh, I'm sorry, Sweet Bippy. My bad. I got twisted around by no. You're right, Sweet Bippy. You're right. Point the thumb, not the finger. My fault.
You know what you're actually struggling with this microphone thing? If we really want to break this down,
Yes.
you've actually made a mistake today. You're bringing it closer to your mouth. What you need is to create. This is
farther?
geometry. Take angles to the microphone.
Angles to the mic.
You have a greater diameter around this microphone if you keep it a little bit farther away, and your producer gets used to that, maybe bumps up your level a little bit, and you have more of an area here to talk into the mic.
We got to work on this after the show because everybody needs to hear every single one of my
We
thoughts.
should actually do no, we don't. Like a short of where you're exercising, like you're practicing your mic discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like changing your face angle. That's part of it too. You gotta have good neck mobility.
Right.
There's actual scouting to this. Maybe you have a stiff neck. Maybe that's your problem.
That could be it.
You can't do enough of this.
All right. I do want to everybody who's going in the chat calling me a stopgap, you're a stopgap.
Okay, let's get the super chats.
We're gonna confiscate
Hey,
this after the show.
Shout out to as we get into super chats. Shout out to my guy
Tony Daly, you have to put the mic against your forehead for us to hear your thoughts.
Good one, Tony. Hey,
Or
whoever
up your.
this is this is another bad job. Apparently, it was turning into a rough day for me. I walked into Whole Foods this morning with like 3 minutes before I had to get on the train and to get a banana and an orange because I want to be so healthy for you, Hoge. And I walk in, and I think his name was Richard, but if it wasn't, I apologize. Was so excited to see me and loves the show, and it was like I was a legit freaking superstar, and you made my day. Thank you so much for watching. Whoever it was at Whole Foods, I think your name might have been Richard. Regardless, that's not the point. You're awesome. Appreciate the
All right.
support.
Well, you just wasted your shout out on Richard from Whole Foods.
He was awesome.
I know what you just tried to do there. You tried to preemptively get an extra shout out in. We had a meeting before the show. Everybody gets one shout out. Carm objected. He's trying to sneak in extra shout outs. This is bad shout out discipline right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm upset about it. You wasted your shout out on Richard.
Flex digs.
Also-
Sweetness, great stopgap.
Yeah. So was Khalil Mack.
Basically was. The guy was here for 5 seconds.
Cup of
And
coffee.
one good year.
Yeah.
Cup of coffee.
I thought Urlacher was a great stopgap.
Not a stopgap.
Middle linebacker position.
I'll give you a great middle linebacker stopgap for the Bears. Not middle linebacker. Linebacker.
Let's get to super chats. Crystal, $10. I'm doing better because I was MIA last week. Busy week at work. Didn't hit send on my super for Friday. Happy Monday, guys. Have an awesome week. Love you guys. Bear down. Thank you, Crystal.
We missed you, Crystal.
What's up, Crystal?
We have a new diehard for Carm to harass. His name is Eddie Jackson.
Uh-oh.
Oh, Eddie.
All pro Eddie.
Eddie Jackson.
Eddie, welcome.
Don't call him a stopgap.
Eddie's definitely not a stopgap. Eddie is here for the long haul. At least we hope he is. And Eddie, some counting you out, but you didn't count yourself out. You had adversity in your life, and you know what you. That's why we love you, Eddie, and that's why we welcome you to the Die Hard family. Appreciate you. Yeah.
I do not know how to say this next one.
Quickholds.
Quickholds?
Quickholds.
Okay. $5. Have you seen the clip of Mercedes Lewis handling Dio Odangbo last year where Mercedes wins the one-on-one no problem? Is this concerning? I think that goes back to what we were just talking about. We're making conclusions off of one rep.
Right. Everybody's going to get beat. You know, sometimes you're going to lose leverage. Doesn't define you as a player. Mercedes Lewis been in this league a long time.
It is
showing the young buck the ropes.
Considering that every other play that Mercedes Lewis had last year was a penalty, I would say that actually is concerning.
Gabe Gardner, $5. Happy Monday, CHGO. Work was crazy last week, so I haven't been able to listen live, but I am now up to date. Can't wait for draft day. Bear down, boys.
He was also very happy that I chose to wear pants today.
Yeah,
we all are.
Well, hey, I got my bandaging off my knee, so maybe I should have showed that off because I'm excited for that. I also get to bend at 30 degrees now, so now I can actually get my foot to the floor.
30-degree bend.
30 degrees.
Yeah.
Making progress.
Yeah.
This is good.
Guys, right around the corner from a...
Working my way up to 90, and to 120, 130.
He's going to shoot an 88 on a farm field and tell you that he's a great golfer. In a matter of moments.
I can't wait. I cannot wait.
So true. Chevy Wellington, $20. Our biggest need after free agency is 5-tech.
Okay.
27th against the run. Any O-line picked at 10 is not starting this year. We missed our chance to upgrade left tackle. We're rolling with Braxton. Genty is a need and best player available. Warren is an F. We have it. Okay. 5-tech would be a little bit more important if they were running a 3-4, but Chevy Wellington, $5. Another one. Question, would you not trade Sweat for a second in hindsight? Pick 40 could have been Cooper, DeJean. Have taken Bowers, Frazier at center if you could. Boo polls.
It's not the greatest trade in the history of the NFL. We'll say that.
No, I agree. I mean, that's what brings us back to the whole point of the first block of our show is, I mean, you gave up a significant draft capital and you paid them a lot of money. And
it's what we do.
Certainly if you're Montez Sweat, take that money. But the way it's going to be judged is based on that. And so they need double-digit sacks on him.
It was wild, a little bit wild at the time, even though he came in here and was instantly great and transformed the defensive line, and the defense looked a whole lot better.
Yeah.
But you were making a fairly aggressive play on a team that was going nowhere.
Yeah. All right. And we're going to end our show here with shout-outs. After a busy weekend, I'm sure Greg would like to shout out his basketball team.
I already gave my shout out to my physical therapist. Got up to 30 degrees, so very excited for that. Was having a mental breakdown last night at about 3 a.m. because I couldn't bend my leg in bed. My brace on. It's driving me insane. Nah, I could shout out Purdue all I want. Getting to the Sweet 16 ho-hum. I know that's a big deal for other schools. For Purdue, it's business as usual. 6 of the last 8 years in the Sweet 16, two Elite Eight appearances, a national championship appearance,
down Patrick Norton.
2 National Player of the Year awards in a row for Zach Edey. This is kind of what we do here at Purdue. So for everybody else that, lives and dreams for Sweet 16 appearances, maybe one day you'll get on our level.
All right, well, I'm going to shout out.
Boiler up.
I'm going to shout out a program that actually won a national championship.
Purdue did win a national championship, but it was in the 30s.
Oh, Carman, how was that? What was that like?
What was that like?
You get a harmonica for age jokes on me. Go ahead.
If I told you that there was a game where two programs
Look at this, Mike.
were playing
Yeah.
in the national championship for the third straight year, and it was a rubber match because one won the first year, another one won the second year. Now it's a rubber match. Year 3, same programs. One team's winning by 1 goal with 18 seconds left. The other team gets a penalty shot to tie the game.
Wow.
And the head coach says, "Who wants it?" This person raises their hand and says, "I want it, coach." Dekes the hell out of the goaltender. Sick goal to go to overtime. And then that team wins it in overtime. Would you say that that was an amazing game?
I
For a
would.
national championship?
I would.
That's exactly what happened yesterday in the women's national championship game. In hockey, Wisconsin beating Ohio State, which makes it even sweeter because I do not like Ohio State in any sport. And that is how you win national championships in the most exciting fashion. Meanwhile, I was at the Blackhawks game, missed all of what I just said live, but I did check out the highlights later. It was awesome.
It's a good job by you. Congrats to the Badgers on Wisconsin. I'd sing the fight song for you, but
And not gonna lie, badly needed that after what happened Saturday night. That was horrible.
you guys were right there. Just didn't go your way. Tough.
We
draw.
should not have been there. That was Can we stop ejecting people for accidental elbows? It's basketball, dude.
I mean,
I get hit with an elbow every Sunday morning in a lifetime. It is basketball. We're ejecting the best players in the game with 3-4 minutes left. And by the way, I'm talking about the other team. The only reason Wisconsin came back in the last 3 minutes is because they ejected that guy at BYU. It was ridiculous.
well, college basketball officials just in general, and maybe it's hard to get good officials nowadays, just horrible. Absolutely horrible. You somehow insert yourself into seemingly every single game. And maybe it's
Especially a high knees guy.
Yeah, I mean, the direction from
We had
above
him
might
for
not be
one of our
great,
2
too.
games.
But it is just,
Luckily,
Did you
wasn't a problem.
yeah, I mean, not good. It's a reminder. Fans who like college basketball, they like to watch college basketball, not college basketball players shoot free throws. You don't need to call everything. Flow to the game. Keep it moving.
Keeps the flow.
Offensive player has an edge on the defender. You don't need to call a touch foul at that point to stop the game. Let him go and finish the layup. Hello, this is not. I don't think it's rocket science, but somehow it just doesn't seem like this can ever get rectified too.
Also, did you think that was a travel on Maryland last night?
He traveled, but I wouldn't have called it.
By definition, was a travel.
Okay, so let me tell you though, I was watching that game live, saw the play live, saw all the replays live, went and I think put my kid to bed or something. Like a good 30 minutes went by before I went back on Twitter. It never once occurred to me that was maybe a travel until I saw people slow-moing it down on Twitter.
Well, the reason
you don't call that.
Well, the reason
You're not going to call that.
You're not going to call that. That's kind of the moniker that's going to be attached to that moment. Calling a travel there would have left a bad taste in everyone's mouth except for Colorado State fans.
One more step.
And Lindsey Spano probably would have appreciated the travel call being called. But the thing that the differentiation that fans don't make is in the NBA, you have a gather step that you're allowed and then 2 steps after your gather. There is no gather step allowed in college. And so when you watch that play, you've watched basketball so much and maybe you combine what you see with the NBA. And so that looks like a very normal basketball move. But in college, you're not supposed to have that gather step. So by definition, what he did, and he had very long strides too. So he made that move at the top of the key, gets all the way to the baseline and puts that up. And all you see is the shot. But by definition, it was a travel. But Derek Queen made a hell of a shot. And I wouldn't be mad if the Bulls took him at the inevitable number 7 pick in the draft.
Putting this all together and maybe bringing it back towards just officiating in general in football as well. Like, I do think there is an art to officiating, and the more we try to make it more like black and white and everything, there is a thing that we should have called common sense when it comes to officiating these games. And to me, like, that's a moment where we say you're not going to call that. Yeah, it's common sense. You don't call that there. There's certain fouls depending on how the flow of the game is or even a certain matchup within one play. You don't need to call it. Same thing in football. You got 2 elite players just doing some hand fighting at the line of scrimmage. We don't need to call illegal contact.
Right. Running backs past the line of scrimmage, 5 yards down the field. You see somebody holding at that point. You don't throw that flag. You could call it literally every single play. That's a great play that happened. It had nothing to do what's going on over there. Quit being letter of the law officials. Use common sense. If you can't figure that out, I'll find you a spot with the Panera 5, my guys.
Okay. I thought it was a good show.
I had fun.
Yeah. All right. We'll be back tomorrow. We have
big news. Big news tomorrow.
We do?
Just go with it. There's big news on the show.
Big
tomorrow.
news.
Big
noon
news
tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Yeah,
Big news tomorrow.
Big news coming
Big
tomorrow.
news.
Noon.
You aren't gonna believe this tomorrow.
Huge guess.
The big news.
Huge.
The big news is Carman is going on vacation and won't be here Wednesday through Friday. That's the news we'll share with you tomorrow at noon.
That's huge news.
I'll get
Pizzatola.
3 days without me. Congratulations to Pizzatola and Ibsen and whoever else out there who's going to really Edward, Elric, you're going to have a great 3 days watching the show. But I'll be back, buddy. Ain't no stopgap coming in here and replacing me. This is no Wally Pipp situation.
I need 10 reps of mic discipline while you're on vacation a day.
10 of mic discipline.
You can do it.
I've
Work those neck muscles.
I'm going away for 3 days. I've already booked 16 massages. I'm really going to be relaxed when I come back here. I'm going to be in great shape.
Okay. Hey, thanks for being here today. We greatly appreciate you. Make sure you check out Bulls tonight too. The Bulls are on a little run here. We had a huge audience on Saturday night. Greatly appreciate that.
Bulls are back.
Pre and post game tonight.
Those are so good.
Baseball starting this week. Lots of things are happening. I don't know. Can I say that our baseball already started? It's very confusing how the Cubs already played 2 games.
The White Sox.
No, those games didn't count. We're not counting those games.
Okay, so the Cubs are 0-0.
Baseball starts this week. Hasn't started yet.
Good.
Will the Cubs get back to 500 in 2025? Story on CHGO Cubs coming up.
You did that bit last year.
I did, and I lost. I mean, they did. Congratulations. I hope they do this year.
All
Can't wait.
Talk to you at noon tomorrow.
We all silly like the mayor.